Title: The Shocking Reason Behind the Silence on Traoré. Something important is happening in West Africa, and most of the world does not want to talk about it. There is an effort to weaken one man, to cut off his influence, to silence his voice. That man is Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the leader of Burkina Faso. The question is, why? Why are so many forces, both inside and outside his country, uncomfortable with him? Why does his leadership make some nervous? To understand this, we must begin with Burkina Faso itself. This country, though small and landlocked, has always carried weight in African history. It was once known as Upper Volta during the colonial years under France. Like many African nations, its borders were drawn not by the people, but by colonial powers who carved Africa into pieces for their own gain. Independence came in 1960, but the legacy of outside control did not vanish. One of the first leaders to truly try and break this control was Thomas Sankara. In the 1980s, Sankara renamed the country from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, meaning the land of upright people. He spoke boldly against corruption, colonialism, and dependence on foreign aid. He pushed for self-reliance, women's rights, and dignity for ordinary citizens. He was loved by many, but feared by powerful outsiders. In 1987, Sankara was assassinated in a coup widely believed to have been backed by foreign interests. His death was a warning. Leaders who try to make Africa independent often face the harshest resistance. Now, decades later, another young leader has risen with a similar spirit. Ibrahim Traoré, who came to power in 2022, carries echoes of Sankara in his words and actions. He is not just another soldier who grabbed power. He presents himself as a man on a mission to restore order in a country torn apart by insecurity, to fight corruption, and to give people a sense of dignity and control over their future. When he speaks in plain language. He tells young people not to depend on outsiders, but to believe in themselves. He says Burkina Faso must stand strong, even if it means sacrifice. He reminds people that leaders are servants, not masters. For ordinary Burkinabè, these words ring true. They see him as someone different from the usual politicians who only think of their pockets. But words are powerful, and in Africa, words that inspire independence are often dangerous. As Traoré's message spread, discomfort began to grow, both inside his country and outside. Internationally, some powers were uneasy. Burkina Faso had long depended on foreign aid, foreign troops, and foreign agreements. But Traoré began to suggest that Burkina Faso should look inward, build alliances with neighbors, and reduce reliance on Western countries. This was not received warmly in capitals far away. Soon, aid that was once flowing began to slow down. Military equipment that was promised was delayed. Training programs were suspended. Officially, the reasons were administrative. Unofficially, it was pressure, a way to remind Traoré that going against the established order comes with a cost. Inside Burkina Faso, the struggle was just as strong. The country has elites who benefited from years of weak governance. Corruption gave them contracts, foreign deals gave them money, and a weak state allowed them to enrich themselves while ordinary people suffered. Suddenly, the comfortable lives of these elites were threatened. They did not openly attack him, but they began to resist in quieter ways, funding opposition voices, influencing media, and whispering in corridors of power. And then came his most dangerous act, speaking to the people directly, in language of self-reliance and dignity. When Traoré said Burkina Faso must depend on itself, not outsiders, it was more than a policy. It was an idea. And ideas are harder to fight than weapons. His speeches reached beyond Burkina Faso. Across Africa, young people began to share his words, to see him as a symbol that a new kind of leadership was possible. This frightened those who wanted the old order to continue. So the silencing began. Journalists who gave him airtime were pressured. Some disappeared. Radio stations that once spoke boldly about him suddenly changed tone. On social media, accounts praising him were taken down. Even regional organizations began to avoid mentioning him too much. It was a slow, careful effort, not to confront him openly, but to reduce his influence quietly, step by step. Yet, despite this, the people still hold on. In villages, people whisper his name with hope. In markets, women say, "He is our son." In schools, students pass his quotes around on hidden WhatsApp groups. His popularity has not disappeared. If anything, the attempts to silence him have made him more of a symbol. But what makes his situation even more tense is the history of Burkina Faso itself. People remember Sankara. They know what happened when a leader tried to break free from foreign control. They fear history may repeat itself. At the same time, they also feel a responsibility not to let it happen again. That tension is heavy. It creates an atmosphere of suspense. Will Traoré survive politically and perhaps even physically the pressures he now faces? This story is not just about one man. It is about Africa's direction. Every time an African leader tries to speak for independence and dignity, the same pattern emerges. Pressure comes from outside, resistance rises from inside, and the leader is squeezed from both ends. Some give in, others are removed. A few, very few, manage to endure. If Ibrahim Traoré stands firm, he could inspire a new generation of African leaders to put their people first, to fight corruption, and to refuse to be controlled. But if he is silenced, the opposite message spreads. The true independence in Africa is impossible, that anyone who dares will be punished. That is why the people of Burkina Faso and Africans across the continent must pay attention. This is not only his battle, it is a collective one. A leader can only do so much. Without the support of his people, without the solidarity of Africans, he can be isolated. But with their backing, his voice can grow stronger. It is important to understand that the struggle is not about war. It is not about violence. It is about the battle of ideas, the battle for dignity, the battle for who controls Africa's future. Will it be outsiders who write the script, or Africans themselves? That question is at the heart of Traoré's silence, or survival. Today, Traoré continues his work carefully. He visits markets and schools, reminding people that he is still with them. He still says his loyalty is to the people, not to any foreign capital or corrupt elite. He still insists that Burkina Faso must chart its own course. He has not given up. The responsibility now is on the people. Will they protect their leader? Will they stand together to defend their voice? And will Africans in other countries recognize the importance of this moment? If they do, then Ibrahim Traoré's story will not end in silence. It will echo, just as Sankara's words still echo decades after his death. But this time, the echo must not end in tragedy. This time, it must end in strength. One day, Ibrahim Traoré may stand free and strong before his people, speaking openly without fear, declaring that Burkina Faso has chosen its own path. When that day comes, history must record not only his courage, but also the courage of the people who stood with him. May his voice not only survive, but grow louder. May it spread across the continent, reminding all of us that Africa cannot be silenced.